Tim Silk of HashiCorp. It's great to talk to you, Tim. Thanks for your time today. What are some of the challenges that you are seeing governmental organizations running up against in establishing and in deploying DevSecOps environments? Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Francis. I appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak with you today. So the challenges are really around what we often hear, and that is people, process, and technology. And that's getting over some of the really well-established but legacy mission approaches to deploying IT and IT services and delivering those services. And we've really evolved into this environment of silos, right? Where the concept or the notion of an IT silo is kind of well understood and been well used over the years. But we still kind of remain in that paradigm. So the challenge becomes, how do we leverage those silos, but also kind of weave them together so that they become relevant and continue to be useful and innovative for what government agencies are trying to do. And that's a very heavy, people and process thing. The technology is really there. It's really overcoming that people and process. And with that, we hear also a lot about skills gaps in the federal marketplace and within federal agencies. I think the skills are there. It's really advancing the notion and the kind of the mindset of the technology isn't the hard part. It's how we think of it and how we deploy it. So I think between the people, process, and technology and combining that with what we've been doing in terms of silos for so long, and then understanding that the skills gaps we have can be still leveraged to help us modernize and help us to move forward. I think those are kind of the biggest things that we're seeing today.
How are you seeing organizations take those challenges on and meet them successfully if you're seeing successes, Tim?
The key is to just start. You have a lot of tools and a lot of process, technologies out there that really enable you to overcome these challenges. And the benefit of DevOps, DevSecOps is speed and agility and scale up, scale down, use the resources when I need them and turn them off when I don't. So the organizations that recognize this and they just start. So oftentimes if they start small, you can start to see how they can expand across their environment into more and more if they get it going, and if they start and they get the kind of the understanding of how it's really benefiting them. And this is kind of an ad hoc type of phase too. They kind of learn as they go, but then they start to standardize on the environment and how things work together, how things need to change, how the workflow needs to evolve. And once they do that, then they can start to really grow it and scale that way. And when they do that, you start to think organizationally of, okay, I've had my traditional silos. If you think of our traditional silos, compute, application, compute, storage, network, security, I now start to flip those on their end and say, okay, I've got these vertical silos now. How do I manage all of this? I start to think organizationally as what we would call a platform team, right? So I'm now thinking holistically across my silos and looking for those ways that are provided to us with DevSecOps technologies to weave those silos together.
In that ability to kind of flip those silos on their sides and turn them into tubes, where tunnels maybe, where there is information and thought process flowing through them, how does one help an organization resist the temptation to flip them back on their ends and kind of revert to, well, maybe even unintentionally, revert back to this is how we've always done things? That comfort level, I imagine, is one of the most difficult parts of the people section that you described earlier to try to stay on top of.
Yeah, in order to try to keep those silos vertical, I think it's where you start to go into the technology part of this, right? You got the people and the process. Once you, again, standardize on these processes in these workflows, you can start to see that certain technologies are enabling that. And so if you can educate, and this is where, taking my traditional knowledge, my existing skill set, and just kind of enhancing it a little bit, developing it a little bit to understand that, look, there's new ways to do some of these things, and they allow you to weave that seam through these silos. And once you can do that with just two of them, right? Just two of those silos, once you stand them both up and get them integrated working together, you'll start to see that, hey, I can do the next one and the next one. So it's an incremental thing, but it also involves this ability to kind of recognize and develop the skills and the knowledge there.
Is there a point of critical mass where an organization connects enough of those the way you just described them that it now becomes the de facto way of doing business, the default way, and one can think less from a leadership perspective about falling back into the old ways?
Yeah, I think so. Again, because of the way those technologies really strengthen the ties between these, between across the environment, you start to realize that then I now, because I mentioned there's this ad hoc phase and then there's this standardized phase where I'm starting to develop my new workflows. Once you do that, the scale is clear and you will clearly see the benefit of that. So you'll see the environment be able to scale. And again, in the promise of what we know as cloud computing, it's the scale up and scale down and use it when I need it and put it away when I don't. That scale is where you want to get to, but it involves this standardization, these new workflows, these standardized workflows that allow me to really do that. So I think the temptation to fall back really kind of wanes because you're seeing such a strong benefit in the way you're doing things now.
Tim, it's great to talk to you. I appreciate your insight today. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.